My parents excluded me from Thanksgiving, but I had already planned a lavish holiday with 23 guests. When they saw the photos, their hearts sank. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post on Reddit about family drama. But here I am, 29 years old, sitting in my home office with a glass of wine, ready to tell you about the Thanksgiving that changed everything with my parents. This isn't just about a holiday dinner gone wrong. This is about years of being treated like an afterthought and the moment I finally stopped waiting for them to see my worth. My name is Donna Chen, and I grew up in suburban Connecticut as the middle child between my older brother Marcus and younger sister Stephanie. If you're familiar with middle child syndrome, you know exactly where this is going. Marcus was the golden boy who became a corporate lawyer. Stephanie was the baby who could do no wrong and followed our mother into real estate. And me, I was the one who chose a creative career as a freelance graphic designer and brand consultant, which my parents never quite understood or valued. The exclusion didn't happen overnight. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts, each one small enough to dismiss, but collectively devastating. Growing up, Marcus got the bigger bedroom because he needed space to study. Stephanie got the newer car because she was less experienced and needed safer transportation. I got the hand-me-downs and the explanations about being more independent and not needing as much support. When I graduated from college, my parents threw Marcus a huge party for his law school acceptance. When I landed my first major client, a Fortune 500 company, my mother said, "That's nice, honey," and changed the subject to Stephanie's new boyfriend. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was building a life I was proud of. But those small rejections added up like interest on a loan I never asked for. This year, everything came to a head in October. My mother called me on a Tuesday afternoon, her voice carrying that particular tone she uses when she's already made up her mind about something and is just going through the motions of telling me. "Donna, honey, we need to talk about Thanksgiving," she said, and my stomach immediately tightened. I was at my desk working on a rebranding project for a boutique hotel chain, but I minimized the screen and gave her my attention. "What about it?" I asked, already knowing this wasn't going to be good news. "Well, Stephanie is bringing Derek to meet the family officially, and you know how your father gets with the house being too crowded. We're keeping it small this year, just the immediate family and Derek. Maybe you could join us for dessert." I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, trying to process what she just said. Dessert. She was inviting me to dessert at my own family's Thanksgiving like I was a distant cousin they felt obligated to include. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice remarkably calm, considering the fury building in my chest. "You're excluding me from Thanksgiving dinner, but I'm welcome to show up for pie. Don't be dramatic, Donna. It's not about excluding you. It's about keeping things intimate for Derek's first holiday with us. You understand, don't you? You're always so independent and understanding about these things." There it was. The praise that was actually an insult. The compliment that meant they expected me to make their lives easier by not having needs or feelings of my own. I'd heard variations of this my entire life. "You're so independent" really meant we're going to focus on your siblings. "You're so understanding" really meant we expect you to accept whatever we decide. "No, Mom," I said quietly. "I don't understand, but I appreciate you letting me know." I hung up before she could respond, and I sat there in my home office, surrounded by the evidence of my successful career, framed awards, client testimonials, my brand design featured in industry magazines, and I felt like that overlooked kid again, waiting for scraps of attention from my parents. But then something shifted. I looked around at my beautiful townhouse in Portland, Maine, the one I bought with my own money at 26. I thought about my amazing friends, my thriving business, my life that I built entirely on my own because my parents were too busy doing on my siblings to help me. And I realized I was done waiting for them to see my value. I opened my laptop and started making a list. If my parents didn't want me at their Thanksgiving, I'd create my own, and it would be so spectacular that they'd finally understand what they've been missing all these years. I called my best friend Rachel first. She picked up on the second ring, and I could hear her kids arguing in the background. "Donna, perfect timing. I'm hiding in the laundry room. What's up? How would you and Tom and the kids like to spend Thanksgiving at my place? I'm hosting, and I'm going big. Are you serious? We were just going to do something quiet because Tom's parents are going on a cruise and my mom's visiting my sister in California. The kids would love it. But what about your family thing? There is no family thing. Not for me, anyway. I filled her in on my mother's call, and Rachel's response was exactly what I needed. Oh, hell no. We are absolutely coming, and we're bringing our appetites and our gratitude for having you in our lives. What can I bring? That was the beginning. I called my colleague and friend David, who was dreading spending the holiday alone in his apartment. I texted my neighbor, Linda, a widow who'd become like a surrogate grandmother to me. I reached out to my college roommate, Maria, who was flying in from Chicago to visit family and gladly agreed to stop by. I invited my trainer, Brian, and his husband, Carlos, my favorite barista, Emma, and her girlfriend, and my former professor, Dr. Patricia Morrison, who'd always encouraged my creative career when my parents dismissed it. Within 2 days, I had 23 confirmed guests, ranging from age 4 to 72. I had couples, singles, families with kids, and even Linda's grandson, who was home from the Navy. It was going to be chaos in the best possible way, and I was going to make sure it was absolutely perfect. I hired a chef, not just any chef, but Daniel Grant, who had appeared on cooking shows and whose restaurant had been featured in Bonabati. He was between jobs, planning his next venture, and when I explained what I wanted to do, he was immediately on board. A Thanksgiving that shows your family what they're missing. I love it. Let's make it unforgettable, he said. And we started planning a menu that would make traditional Thanksgiving dinner look like a sad cafeteria meal. Finding Daniel was actually a stroke of luck. I'd met him at a food festival in Portland 3 months earlier, where he was doing a cooking demonstration. We'd struck up a conversation about the intersection of food and design, how presentation matters almost as much as taste, and we'd exchanged contact information. I never imagined I'd be calling him to cater the most important dinner of my life, but when I reached out, he remembered me immediately. The graphic designer who actually understood plating aesthetics. He said when I called, "What can I do for you?" When I explained the situation, he got quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made me realize this was about more than just food. My family didn't come to my restaurant opening because they thought cooking was beneath me. They wanted me to be a doctor like my dad. I get it, Donna. I get what it's like to need to prove that your path is just as valid, just as worthy of celebration. Let's make this dinner so good that anyone who missed it will regret it for the rest of their lives. We met at a coffee shop the next day to plan the menu in detail. Daniel brought sketches of plating ideas, suggestions for flavor combinations, and an enthusiasm that was infectious. He talked about sourcing local ingredients from Maine farms, about creating dishes that honored tradition while elevating it to something extraordinary. We planned 3 turkeys, 1 traditional herb roasted, 1 brined and smoked, and 1 prepared with a maple bourbon glaze. We planned side dishes that went beyond the usual suspects: truffle mac and cheese, butternut squash risotto, Brussels sprouts with petta and balsamic reduction, sweet potato soule with a pecan prawling topping, and green beans with almonds and lemon zest. We planned homemade cranberry sauce with orange and cinnamon, 3 types of stuffing, and a gravy that Daniel promised would make people weep with joy. For dessert, we went completely over the top. Traditional pumpkin pie, pecan pie with Kentucky bourbon, apple crumb pie with vanilla bean ice cream, a chocolate bourbon tart, and a massive tiramisu, because why not? I transformed my townhouse into something out of a magazine. I rented tables and chairs, elegant place settings with cream-colored linens and gold chargers, crystal glasses, and real silverware. I bought enough flowers to stock a wedding. Burgundy dahlias, white roses, and eucalyptus arranged in vintage brass containers down the center of the tables. I hung string lights across my backyard patio and set up heat lamps so people could enjoy the outdoor space despite the November chill. I created a kids' table that was actually fun with activities and special kid-friendly versions of the adult food. I set up a hot chocolate bar with every topping imaginable. I created a signature cocktail called the Grateful Heart with bourbon, apple cider, and cinnamon. I made sure there were options for my vegan guests, my gluten-free guests, and my guests who just wanted to eat their weight in mashed potatoes. The week leading up to Thanksgiving was a whirlwind of preparation. I took 3 days off from client work, something I never did, to focus entirely on making this event perfect. I went to the farmer's market and handpicked every pumpkin and gourd for the centerpieces. I spent an entire afternoon at the craft store selecting ribbons and candles and place card holders. I even commissioned custom menus from a local calligrapher. each one a tiny work of art listing every course we'd be serving. My hands were cramping from tying napkins with silk ribbons, but I didn't care. Every detail mattered. Every element was another piece of proof that I could create something beautiful, something valuable, something worth being part of. Rachel came over 2 nights before Thanksgiving and found me at midnight, still arranging and rearranging the table settings. "Donna, it's perfect." "You need to sleep," she said gently. "What if it's not enough?" I asked. And suddenly I was crying, all the emotion of the past month pouring out. What if I do all this and I still feel like I'm not good enough? Rachel hugged me tight. "This isn't about being good enough for them anymore. This is about you recognizing your own worth. And honey, you are so far beyond enough. You are extraordinary. This dinner is just you showing the world what you already know deep down." Her words steadied me. She was right. This wasn't about revenge or proving anything to my parents. This was about celebrating myself, my life, my chosen family. The fact that my parents might see it and feel regret was just a side effect, not the goal. The next day, I got a text from Stephanie. "Mom is really upset. She keeps crying and saying she made a mistake. Just thought you should know." I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt guilty. But mostly I felt sad that it had come to this, that I'd had to plan an elaborate dinner just to make them see what they'd been overlooking for 29 years. I texted back, "I hope you all have a nice Thanksgiving. I'll be having one too." The cost was astronomical. I spent over $8,000 on this Thanksgiving, which was more than I'd ever spent on any single event in my life. But I had the money, my business was thriving, and more importantly, I had something to prove. Not to my family, I told myself, but to myself. I deserved this celebration. I deserved to be surrounded by people who valued me. The week before Thanksgiving, my mother called again. "Donna, I've been thinking about what I said. Maybe we were a bit hasty. Why don't you come for the whole dinner after all? Stephanie thinks it would be nice." "Thanks, Mom, but I've made other plans." There was a pause. "Other plans? What other plans?" "I'm hosting Thanksgiving at my place. I have 23 guests coming." Another pause. Longer this time. 23 people. "Donna, that's excessive. You're just being spiteful now." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, Mom, I'm being celebratory. I'm choosing to spend the holiday with people who actually want me there for more than just dessert. You're being ridiculous. You know, we love you. You thought I'd be fine with being excluded. You thought I'd be understanding like always, but I'm not fine, and I'm not going to pretend anymore. Enjoy your intimate dinner with Stephanie and Derek." I hung up, and this time I didn't block her number. I wanted her to be able to reach me if she really wanted to apologize, but I wasn't going to let her interrupt my preparations with guilt trips and manipulations. Thanksgiving morning arrived with clear skies and unusually warm weather for Maine in November. I was up at 6:00, and Daniel arrived at 7:00 with 2 assistants and enough food to feed a small army. My townhouse smelled like heaven: roasting turkey, fresh herbs, baking bread, and cinnamon from the desserts already in the oven. Rachel showed up at 9:00 to help with setup, bringing Tom and their 2 kids, Mia and Jackson. The kids immediately gravitated to the hot chocolate bar I'd set up early. Tom started helping Daniel with the turkeys, while I focused on making sure every detail was perfect. The tables looked like something out of a wedding magazine. The flowers were gorgeous, and the lighting created a warm, inviting atmosphere that made my home feel like a dream. Guests started arriving at 2, and the noise level rose in the best possible way. There was laughter, conversation, kids playing, people exclaiming over the decorations, and the food smells wafting from the kitchen. Dr. Morrison brought her famous bourbon balls and stories from her latest book project. Brian and Carlos brought wine and enthusiasm, immediately volunteering to help with anything needed. Emma and her girlfriend brought a homemade dessert and the kind of genuine warmth that made everyone feel welcome. Linda arrived with her grandson Jake, who was handsome in his Navy uniform and immediately charming everyone with his stories. Maria showed up with her signature green bean casserole, insisting we add it to the menu despite all the other food. David brought his camera and started documenting everything, knowing I'd want to remember this. At 4:00, we sat down to eat. 23 people. Around tables that stretched from my dining room into my living room, every seat filled with someone who chose to be there. I stood up with my glass of the Grateful Heart cocktail, and the room quieted down. I want to thank everyone for being here, I said, and I was surprised by the emotion in my voice. This year, I learned an important lesson about family. Family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who show up for you, who celebrate you, who make room for you at their table without you having to beg for a seat. Rachel was crying, and so was Linda. Even Daniel, who barely knew me, looked touched. So, thank you for being my family today. Thank you for filling my home with love and laughter. Thank you for reminding me that I am worthy of taking up space, of being celebrated, of being more than just an afterthought. Now, let's eat this incredible food before it gets cold. The dinner was everything I'd hoped for and more. The food was spectacular, with people going back for seconds and thirds. The conversation flowed easily, with strangers becoming friends and friends becoming closer. The kids ran around with plates of turkey and mac and cheese, their laughter the best background music. The desserts were demolished, with the bourbon pecan pie being the clear favorite, although the tiramisu had its devoted fans. David took hundreds of photos throughout the day. Candid shots of people laughing, artistic shots of the food and decorations, group photos of various combinations of guests. Around 7, as people were having coffee and final slices of pie, he pulled me aside. Donna, these photos are incredible. You need to see them. This whole day is magic. He showed me his camera screen, flipping through image after image of pure joy. There was Rachel's daughter with chocolate on her face, grinning at the camera. There was Linda and Jake with their arms around each other, both beaming. There was a shot of all the desserts laid out on my kitchen island like edible art. There was a group photo of everyone gathered around the tables, glasses raised, smiles genuine, the perfect picture of celebration and belonging. Send them to me, I said. All of them. That night, after the last guest had left, and I was surveying the beautiful disaster of my townhouse, dishes everywhere, leftover food packed in containers, flowers slightly wilted, but still beautiful, I made a decision. I created a new album on Facebook. I uploaded 50 of the best photos from the day and titled it Thanksgiving 2024, Surrounded by Love. Before I posted, I sat there with my finger hovering over the share button. Was I doing this for the right reasons? Was I being petty? Then I looked at the photos again, really looked at them. The joy in those images was real. The love was genuine. The celebration was deserved. I wasn't posting these to hurt my family. I was posting them because I was proud of what I created, and I had every right to share that pride. I thought about all the times I'd downplayed my successes to make others comfortable. All the times I'd hidden my achievements so my siblings could shine. All the times I'd made myself smaller to fit into the space my family had allocated for me. Not anymore. This dinner, these photos, this moment, it was me taking up space, claiming my worth, refusing to shrink. The first photo was the group shot of all 23 of us, clearly in my home, clearly having the time of our lives. The second was the spread of food, professionally photographed and looking like something from a cookbook. The third was me, laughing with Rachel and Maria, my face showing pure happiness. I kept going. The kids at their table, the elaborate decorations, the dessert spread, candid moments of joy and connection, the elegant table settings, everything that showed what an incredible celebration it had been. I didn't tag my family. I didn't make any pointed comments. I just posted the photos with a simple caption, grateful for chosen family and a Thanksgiving I'll never forget, feeling blessed beyond measure. Then I went to bed exhausted and happy and proud of what I created. I woke up to my phone exploding. The Facebook post had over 300 likes and countless comments, many from people I'd gone to high school with, old colleagues, distant relatives, all saying how amazing it looked and how lucky I was to have such wonderful friends. But the notifications that caught my attention were from my family. Stephanie had commented, "Wow, looks like you had quite the party." Marcus had liked the post but not commented. And my mother had called 7 times and left 4 voicemails. I listened to the voicemails while making coffee. The first was confused. "Donna, I saw your photos. I didn't realize you were having such a big gathering. You should have mentioned it." The second was slightly accusatory. "I don't understand why you didn't invite your family if you were doing something this elaborate." The third was hurt. "How could you exclude us when we're your parents?" And the fourth, left at 2 o'clock in the morning, was different. Donna, please call me. I need to talk to you about yesterday. I think I made a mistake. I didn't call back immediately. Instead, I spent the morning cleaning up, packing leftovers to deliver to some of my guests, and reliving the previous day's joy. Around noon, Rachel called. "Have you seen the post on the neighborhood forum?" she asked, barely containing her laughter. "What post?" "Someone asking for recommendations for catering because they went to the most incredible Thanksgiving at Donna Chen's house and want to hire the same people for their holiday party. You're basically famous in Portland now." I had to laugh. That's ridiculous. It's deserved. That was the best Thanksgiving I've ever been to, and I'm not just saying that as your best friend. Tom is still talking about that smoked turkey. After we hung up, I finally called my mother back. She answered on the first ring. "Donna, thank goodness. I've been so worried." "Worried about what, Mom?" "About you spending the holiday with strangers instead of your family." "Those photos, Donna, I had no idea you were planning something so elaborate." I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "They're not strangers, Mom. They're my friends. They're the people who show up for me, who value me, who don't treat me like an afterthought. Is that what you think we do? Treat you like an afterthought? Mom, you literally uninvited me from Thanksgiving dinner and told me I could come for dessert. What would you call that?" Silence. Then quietly, "I didn't think of it that way. I thought you wouldn't mind. You're always so independent." Being independent doesn't mean I don't want to be included. It doesn't mean I don't deserve a seat at the table. It just means I've learned to build my own table when the one I want doesn't have room for me. "Your father and I want to see you. We want to talk about this. Can you come over?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, to let them sit with the consequences of their actions. But another part of me, the part that had organized that beautiful Thanksgiving to prove something to myself more than to them, knew I needed to face this. "I'll come over this afternoon," I said. When I arrived at my parents' house in Connecticut, the same house I grew up in, it felt different somehow, smaller, less important. My mother opened the door, and I could see she'd been crying. My father was in the living room, looking uncomfortable, and Stephanie was there too, sitting on the couch with Derek, who looked like he desperately wanted to be anywhere else. "Where's Marcus?" I asked. "He had to get back to Boston," my mother said quickly. "But we're all here, the rest of us." I almost laughed at that. Even now, Marcus got a pass while everyone else was expected to participate in this intervention or apology or whatever this was supposed to be. We sat down, the awkwardness thick enough to cut with a knife. My father cleared his throat. "Donna, your mother showed me the photos from your Thanksgiving. It looked very nice, very nice." I couldn't help the edge in my voice. "Dad, it was spectacular. It was the best Thanksgiving I've ever had, surrounded by people who actually want me there." My father winced at that. I could see him processing, probably running through years of family gatherings in his mind, trying to see them from my perspective. He looked older, suddenly, tired, in a way that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion. "How long have you felt this way?" he asked quietly. "How long have we been making you feel unwanted?" The question caught me off guard. I'd expected defensiveness, excuses, maybe even anger, but this genuine curiosity, this willingness to hear hard truths, it was unexpected. "Always," I said simply. "Always," I said simply. "For as long as I can remember, it's been 1,000 small moments, Dad. Every time Marcus got praised for his grades, while mine were just expected. Every time Stephanie's problems were emergencies, while mine were character-building opportunities. Every time my achievements were met with concern instead of celebration." I watched my father's face crumble as I spoke. He wasn't crying, but he looked devastated, like he was seeing his parenting through new eyes and hating what he saw. Stephanie shifted uncomfortably. "Donna, we didn't mean to hurt you. Mom explained it was just about keeping things small for Derek to meet everyone." I turned to look at her. Really look at her. My little sister, who'd always gotten everything handed to her, who'd never had to fight for scraps of attention or approval. "Steph, I'm happy you have Derek. I'm happy you're in love and want him to meet the family. But don't you see how it feels to be excluded from that? To be told that making your boyfriend comfortable is more important than including your own sister?" Derek spoke up for the first time, his voice quiet. "For what it's worth, I didn't know Donna wasn't going to be there." When Stephanie told me on the way over, I was really uncomfortable with it. I actually suggested we reschedule so everyone could be there. I looked at him with new respect. Thanks, Derek. That means a lot. My mother was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. Donna, I'm so sorry. You're right. We've been taking you for granted. We've been assuming you didn't need us because you're so successful and capable and independent. But that's not fair. That's not right. We should have been celebrating you, supporting you, making sure you knew how proud we are. Are you? I asked. Proud of me. Of course we are, my father said, looking genuinely shocked. Donna, you've built an incredible career. You own your own home. You have all these friends and this amazing life. How could we not be proud? You never say it. You never show it. When I landed the Fortune 500 client, Mom changed the subject. When I bought my townhouse, you asked if I was sure I could afford it. When I won that design award, you didn't even mention it. Every accomplishment, every success, it's been met with either silence or concern that I'm doing too much. My mother covered her face with her hands. I didn't realize. I thought we were just being careful, not wanting to jinx things or make you feel pressured. But we were really just failing you, weren't we? Yes, I said simply. You were for years. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Stephanie spoke up, her voice small. I never realized how different they treated you. I guess I was so caught up in being the baby and getting their attention that I didn't notice you weren't getting any. That's not fair either. I should have noticed. I should have said something. It's not your job to manage our parents' behavior, I said. But yeah, it would have been nice if someone had noticed I was being left out. My father stood up and walked over to where I was sitting. He knelt down in front of me, something I'd never seen him do before. Donna, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every time we made you feel less than. I'm sorry for not celebrating your successes the way we should have. I'm sorry for this Thanksgiving and for all the times before when we took you for granted. You deserve better. You deserve parents who see you, who value you, who make sure you know how much you matter. I was crying now too, the tears coming fast and hard. I just wanted to feel like I matter to you as much as Marcus and Stephanie do. You do, my mother said, coming to sit beside me. You matter so much, and we're going to do better. We're going to show you, not just tell you. We're going to make sure you know how proud we are, how much we love you, how much we value everything you are. Actions, not words. I said, I need to see it. You will, my father promised, starting now. We talked for hours that afternoon, really talked, in a way we hadn't in years. I told them about feeling invisible growing up, about the constant comparisons to my siblings, about building my business alone because I thought they didn't care. They listened, really listened, and apologized for specific things, specific moments I'd carried for years. My mother brought up the time I won the Regional Design Award in high school, and she couldn't come to the ceremony because she was at Stephanie's soccer game. I'd forgotten about that, or rather, I'd buried it with all the other disappointments. But she remembered, and she cried as she apologized. My father talked about always pushing me to be more practical, more financially stable, when what I needed was encouragement to pursue my creative passions. He admitted he'd been scared for me, worried that a creative career wouldn't provide security, but he'd let that fear translate into criticism instead of support. We unpacked years of hurt that afternoon. Marcus called during our conversation, and this time my father insisted he stay on speakerphone and participate. My brother admitted he'd been so focused on his own achievements that he'd never noticed I wasn't getting the same recognition. He confessed that he'd always assumed I was fine, that I didn't need validation the way he did. You always seem so confident, so sure of yourself, Marcus said over the phone. I never realized you were hurting. That's because I had to be confident, I explained. Nobody else was going to believe in me, so I had to believe in myself. But confidence isn't the same as not needing support. It's not the same as not wanting to be celebrated by your family. Stephanie apologized for never speaking up when she noticed me being excluded. Derek, who'd only just met this family, offered the perspective of an outsider who could see the patterns clearly. My parents made commitments to change, to attend my business events, to celebrate my successes publicly, to include me in family decisions and gatherings without making me fight for a place. It wasn't perfect. One conversation couldn't undo years of hurt, but it was a start. As I was leaving, my mother hugged me tight. I saw the caption on your photos. Chosen family. You shouldn't have to choose family, Donna. You should have both. You should have us and your friends, not one instead of the other. You're right, I said. But the fact that I can build chosen family when I need to, that's a strength, not a weakness. And I'm not giving that up no matter how things change with us. I wouldn't want you to, she said. Those people in those photos, they clearly love you. They clearly see what we've been missing. I'm grateful they've been there for you when we weren't. The drive back to Portland gave me time to process everything. I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even fully recognize until it was lifted. The conversation with my parents didn't fix everything, but it was acknowledgement, validation, a promise to try harder. That was more than I'd expected. Over the next few weeks, things started to change. My mother called to tell me she'd bragged about my business to her book club, showing them my website and portfolio. My father sent me a card for no reason other than to say he was proud of me. Stephanie invited me to lunch, just the two of us, and asked about my work with genuine interest. Marcus even called, apologizing for not being there for the family meeting, but saying he'd heard about everything and wanted me to know he was sorry too. He admitted he'd been so focused on his own achievements that he'd never noticed I wasn't getting the same recognition. He promised to do better, and surprisingly, he did. He started texting me regularly, asking about my projects, sending me funny memes, acting like an actual brother instead of just the successful older sibling I was supposed to admire from afar. But the biggest change was in how I saw myself. The Thanksgiving I created had shown me something important. I didn't need my parents' validation to know I was worthy of celebration. I had built a life, a career, and a community that valued me. Their approval would be nice, and I was grateful they were working toward giving it, but I didn't need it to know my own worth anymore. Rachel asked me if I was going to host Thanksgiving again next year. Absolutely, I told her. But next time, maybe I'll invite my parents too. And if they don't come, then we'll have an amazing dinner without them, just like we did this year. Either way, I'll be surrounded by people who want me there. That's what matters. A year has passed since that Thanksgiving, and I'm writing this from my home office, planning this year's celebration. True to my word, I'm hosting again. And this time, my parents, both siblings, and Derek are coming along with most of my friends from last year and a few new additions. My mother has called 3 times to ask what she can bring, insisting she wants to contribute. My father asked if he could carve one of the turkeys. Stephanie offered to help with setup the day before. And you know what? I'm letting them. I'm letting them show up, contribute, be part of this celebration I created. Because family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, doing better, and making room for everyone at the table. But I'm also keeping my boundaries. I'm making sure my chosen family has just as much importance as my blood family. I'm celebrating my successes publicly and not waiting for anyone's permission to be proud of myself. I'm taking up space without apologizing for it. The photos from last year's Thanksgiving are framed throughout my house now. Reminders of what I built when I stopped waiting for someone else to value me and started valuing myself. They remind me that I am enough, that I deserve celebration, that I can create beauty and joy and community, even when I feel excluded and alone. My mother saw those frames when she visited last month. She stopped in front of the big group photo, the one with all 23 guests, and she cried. "I'm so sorry I missed this," she said. "I'm so sorry I made you feel like you had to choose between us and this beautiful community you've built. You didn't miss it entirely. I told her you learned from it. We all did. And now you get to be part of what comes next. This Thanksgiving, we're expecting 32 guests. The menu is just as elaborate, the decorations just as beautiful, the intention just as powerful. But this time there's an extra element of healing, of bridges built, and relationships restored. This time, my parents will see firsthand what they almost lost, and they'll have the chance to be part of it. And if next year brings different challenges, if old patterns try to resurface, I know what I'm capable of now. I know I can build my own table, fill it with love and laughter and incredible food, and celebrate myself even when others forget too. That knowledge is worth more than any family dinner, any approval, any validation. I learned that being excluded from my parents' Thanksgiving was actually a gift, though it didn't feel like it at the time. It forces me to stop waiting for them to see me and to start seeing myself clearly. It pushed me to create something beautiful instead of accepting scraps. It showed me the strength of the community I'd built and the depth of love available to me outside my family of origin. So yes, my parents excluded me from Thanksgiving. And yes, Their hearts sank when they saw what they'd missed. But my heart soared when I realized I didn't need their table to have a feast. I could create my own, and it would be more beautiful, more meaningful, and more filled with genuine love than anything I'd been settling for. That's the real story here. Not revenge, but renaissance. Not payback, but breakthrough. The moment I stopped trying to earn a place at their table and built my own instead, I found the belonging I'd been searching for all along within myself, within my chosen family, within the life I created on my own terms. And that's a gift no one can take away from me.